What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host that is in dire need of a change of clothes. I can't change. I'm stuck as a cartoon character. I gotta wear the same crap every single day. I mean, at least it's a sick, nasty Hawaiian shirt, but at this point, it's a little too sick and nasty. Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge, with the bonus from r/ProRevenge. Alright, this story is called Fire Me Before I Quit, I Ruin Your Life. Since I'm still in school, I took a job at a bakery of types, which I won't name. The place has bread in the name, but also sells overpriced salads and sandwiches. Panera. I worked there for close to a year where I had this boss named Betty. Not a real name, of course. Betty and I didn't get along whatsoever. She had gotten the previous general manager to quit because she had an affair with him and she threatened to tell his wife if he didn't leave. He quickly left the job and she was promoted to the position. I didn't like her, but I have to respect the dedication to be the general manager of a small-ass store. When I first started working there, I was respectful, but she would do things that would get on my nerves. For instance, I would clean all the places I would be hired to do, and once I was done and relaxed for maybe 5 minutes, she would run out of the manager's office screeching, "Why aren't you working?" I would tell her, of course I did my job, and as a cashier, if nobody's there to help, then I didn't have anything to do. She would glare at me, then I would see her accidentally drop an entire pot of brewed coffee onto my freshly mopped floor for me to clean. So I learned quickly to always look busy. Once she realized I was going to kneel and kiss the ground she walked on, she started dropping my hours. The store ran on a Game of Thrones type politics for who got promotions and raises. Somehow, all her friends were managers and would bully the rest of us. She would drive to my job clock just in case corporate decided to check her hours. So she was essentially stealing hours. When you clocked in, it printed out a small piece of paper telling when you clocked in. She would just drop them on the floor for me to clean up. I would usually pick them up and stick them into a pocket. So this led to me finding Betty clock in and out stubs in my pocket at my house. This will be important for later. Did I mention she was super racist? She was white, and most of the staff were my fellow high school peers, who were all mostly people of color. One day at work, she walked out and told us, "When you're on the clock, I own you." When we all reacted to look at her, she backpedaled and was like, "I didn't mean it like that." This will be important for later. So after a while, I got sick of practically begging for hours, so I went to my current job, but decided I merely wanted to drop my hours, which were already barely a day a week. But suddenly, when I got my new job, she scheduled me every single day of an entire week. She never did that, even when we were on semi-good terms. So I obviously told her I had a new job and couldn't do this. After that, I went home and called my friend who was still working there to tell him I was going to quit tomorrow. He has a bad habit of putting his phone on speaker when he's cleaning at work, so Betty overheard this, obviously. The next day, I walk in and go through the respectful motions of saying, "Thank you for the opportunity," and blah blah blah. Betty let me get through the entire speech before she said, "Oh yeah, I was meaning to tell you, you're fired." I was so blindsided and pissed I cussed her out. My mom raised me to treat women with respect, but this freaking fat, overweight, hippo-looking bimbo pissed me the frick off. She's the type of girl to think binge eating was a personality trait. Okay. So I left and was mad about being fired before I could quit, but didn't push the issue. I'm only 18 and I already had another job. I wasn't expecting Betty to give me a good reference anyway. I would have completely left it alone if it wasn't for the district manager Ben, not a real name, texting me. The Revenge. He thought I was still working there, so I explained to him I was fired. He was stunned due to the fact that I was a decent employee. He asked why she let me go, and I explained it to him, and he was angry. He clarified that she fired me before I quit, and I said yes. He was pissed that she did this and asked if there was anything else she might have done. I kind of just vented to him for a bit. When I told him about the racist remark, he asked if anyone else would collaborate with me. I forgot to mention that she slowly fired and forced people to quit and replace them with her friends and family, which according to company policy, she couldn't do. Something about conflict of interest. I asked all the people who were working there that day if they could, and a few said they would say they did, but one did even better. My one coworker, Andy, is convinced he's the next big vlogger, so he always has his phone out or just using audio recording for hours for a chance to catch a funny clip. I've watched his content and let me say, it's just super cringe. But turns out he labels each recording by day and times. So when he checked, he found her making racist remarks. I got a brilliant idea, and with my other fired or coworkers forced to quit, we decided to scour Andy's recordings. We found some great moments of Betty saying controversial things or just being nasty. Like once a guest sneezed on the baked pastries, and when a coworker told her, she laughed it off and said nobody would know. But this wasn't enough for me. I tried to avoid conflict, but when I'm in a situation, I'll follow it through. I looked her up on Facebook and found out she was married. Nobody knew this. So when she had the affair with the other manager and basically blackmailed him, she was also married and cheating. I don't think anyone ever cared to find out because she was a nasty old lady. So I found the old manager, Mark's Facebook, and found out he and his wife were separated. Turns out, even after he quit, Betty was still trying to blackmail money out of him. When he didn't, she told his wife anyway, causing his wife to divorce him and basically leave him to go back to live with his parents. I did some research, and in my state, blackmail or extortion is a third-degree penalty, with a max of 7 years in prison with a fine of over $10,000 to the victim. So I told the old manager what my plan was for her. He agreed to call the cops on her, but I asked if he'd wait until I finished my part first. He said he'd give me a week. So I met with the district manager and showed him all our evidence. The recordings and the written statements from other ex-coworkers and people who were still working there. I also gave Ben the slips of paper when Betty clocked in and then left and returned 8 to 10 hours later to clock out. Ben thanked me for the information and then I left. A few days later, while walking past the store, I noticed it was closed in the middle of the day. I texted a guy who still worked there and he told me everything. Turns out, Ben first checked the security cameras to see if she was there for the full time she claimed to be. Big surprise, she wasn't. So Ben decided to investigate the store's expenses, since if she's lying about her time, what else could she be stealing? He found out she was stealing money from the store. The guy didn't fully explain how she was, but just that she was. Turns out, she was breaking a lot of health and safety codes and used the money for repairs and etc. for herself. So she was fired immediately, along with all of her minions that left barely anybody to run the store. They shut down to clean up the store and fix things she didn't make. She's out of a job, and Mark told her husband with photo proof, granny nudes, I know, that she cheated on him. But Mark phrased it so it seemed like she still was. So Betty's husband flips out and decides to divorce her, and Betty is the type to post everything on Facebook. So she's begging someone to let her stay, but all of her friends and family totally bailed on her. So she was living in her car looking for a job. That's when Mark decides to sue her for extortion, so she scrambles to find a lawyer. And to make it even worse, the company decided to sue her for all the money she stole, plus all the repairs and lost revenue while the store is closed. Betty's life is crap. She had to sell her car for drastically under what it's worth to pay for all the legal trouble. Mark told me bits and pieces of her crying in the courtroom, but not too much. I was never super close with them. Last I heard of Betty is she was living with her sister who definitely hates her. To think, she would have avoided all of this if she just let me quit. Okay, first of all, obviously she deserves every bit of what came to her, but they keep saying the thing she said was racist, and yes, it could be seen as that, but I just see it as her, like, you know, getting a big old power boner. She just loves that she can treat anyone like garbage that works for her and get away with it, so that's why she was like, I own you guys! And then she realized that cancel culture is ruthless. But obviously, in this case, it's 100% justifiable because this is a garbage person. Alright, this story's called The Girl Friday with the PhD Takes Over the Business from Ungrateful Owner. This is a long tale. It is also a textbook case of why you don't abuse loyal associates. My spouse was the second person hired at a consulting company in a very specialized industry. In her 15 years with the firm, it grew to a respectable 3-office, 8 to 10 employees at each location entity. She and the owner grew the business on the contacts, expertise, and presentation of my wife, to the extent that my wife's abilities and education were the main reason new business came through the door. Over the years, her scope of responsibility grew so that the owner was basically 75% absent and mostly unaware of day-to-day activity. As he got more and more removed from the business, he would make overtures that he would eventually retire and sell her the business. He was so dependent on her income generating that he took out a life insurance policy on her. I did not involve myself too much, but at a major industry party I attended with her, he introduced my wife to the table as "My Girl Friday," basically a secretary, which was weird. Over the years, she tried to get an agreement in place to buy the firm, even if it was years away. He always delayed and made promises, but never followed through. I told her, "This guy doesn't respect you or your contribution. He will never sell you the business because there is no reason to. He can make more money by stringing you along, and essentially, you are the business. Why would he try to sell it to you?" One day, out of the blue, my wife received a raise and a bonus, a very minor amount of money, and a contract that included a non-complete non-disclosure agreement. After reading it, she realized that the owner was trying to lock her down from leaving for another firm. She had been getting feelers from other companies. To make things even more suspicious, she received a call from a competitor who said they were in the final stages of due diligence and they wanted to meet her. The butthole was selling the company and didn't think to tell her or ask if she was interested in buying it. She ignored the agreement and there were no other agreements in place. She was totally free. My wife is extremely loyal. She has missed so many special days working for this guy, stuck around when they were wobbly, even skipped paychecks when there were tough financial times. She was furious, the absolute maddest I've ever seen her. I asked, "How much business is contractually obligated to stay there if you leave?" It turned out that most agreements were either handshakes or 30-day at will. I also asked how many would leave with you. She said about 75%, including her biggest source of revenue, who didn't even know the owner. In a very short time, my wife took a 3-week vacation. She had months of unused time, during which time she rented an office in the same building and made all the arrangements to set up a new shop. She agreed to leave any and all company property behind and do her best to give the old company no obvious ammo for litigation. She called her clients and said, "I'm leaving. If you want to look into relocating your account with my new company, you'll need to quit the old one before we can discuss it." Most understood the implication. While she was on vacation, she received a panicked call from her boss. "We lost XYZ company. Do you know anything about it?" She said, "I'm sorry, but I just sent you an email. I've resigned. All of my keys and company stuff is on my desk. Bye-bye." The new firm took basically 90% of the business and seamlessly transitioned into the same company as it was before, but with a new owner. Even most of the office staff would come on board. Within a year, her old company closed down except for the small office her old boss ran. She sees him once in a while and he just scowls at her. Well, maybe that's why you want to appreciate loyal employees, you dummy head. But that is pretty clean revenge, to be honest. There weren't any really messy interactions, it was just clean, cool, very effective revenge. Although personally, I'd have taken a dump on his desk. Alright, this story from Petty Revenge is called Turning My Roommate's Room into the Dump. Okay, so this is my first ever post, but reading some of these stories reminded me of this and I thought maybe it fit here. In college, I lived in a share house. Each room in the house was rented separate. For the most part, it was wonderful and I made great friends with my roommates. There were 4 rooms upstairs and 1 large master suite downstairs. The girl who lived downstairs absolutely refused to take out the trash. The rest of us had no problem with it, and if we were the one who noticed, we took it out. We talked to her several times about filling up the garbage and leaving it, and she always swore she'd help out, but never did. Somewhat related side note in general, she was not fun to live with, although I wouldn't say she was absolutely terrible, just very self-centered. Anyway, she graduated and was getting ready to move out, and so was going through things and tossing them out. One night, another roommate and I cleaned up the downstairs area, including taking the trash out, and went upstairs to hang. The next morning, we came down, and the garbage was not only full, but had a separate bag and boxes stacked next to it. We were floored. Turns out, she had gone through her kitchen stuff, including food and room, and didn't want to take the trash out. She was also still in bed and had a habit of sleeping in. I was so livid that I methodically took every piece of trash out of both bags and boxes and carefully piled them in front of her door. Her bedroom had French doors, and I made sure to completely block both. I even wrapped some around the handles for good measure. The pile was about 4 to 5 feet tall, and her doors opened inward. So when she woke up later that day and opened her door, the trash fell into her room, and the only way out would be to move or clean up the garbage. I told my other roommates that hopefully she'd get the message, and it appears that she did. For the remaining couple of weeks she lived there, she didn't fill up the garbage. She also didn't speak to the rest of us. But, well, we counted that as a win. First of all, that's a really good prank. Second of all, I really wish I was just present for this entire, period of time, so I could cause turmoil within the household by asking, well, why does she get the master bedroom? See, what you do is you plant a seed of conflict and let them tear each other apart. Sorry, we're moving from ProRevenge to Petty Revenge. My blood's pumping. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.